Last time on Shadow Peace, another battle was getting closer to its ending, as Katakuri of the Big Mom Pirates overcame limit after limit to catch up to the Titanic Captain and Ex-Admiral Kuzan. A war of this level was bound to have countless consequences for the future of the world, and that was the case because of a multitude of reasons. First, and most obviously, this war would only end with at least one massive pirate group having been defeated. With the Blackbeard Pirates' loss, it would be the end of another Yonko, and finally the official start of Maria as an emperor, as right now the Yonko still consisted of Shanks, Kaido, Blackbeard and Crocodile, even if Kaido was technically a subordinate of the Thriller Pirates now. But with the loss of the Thriller Pirates, it would mean that the Blackbeard Pirates were much stronger than the world government had anticipated, and the fear of what they might do next would rise immensely. The second consequence was a rise of new legends, as after a war, tales of the battles would spread far and wide, motivating fighters all over the world to reach the heights of these pirates that reshaped an entire island over the course of a war. That, however, is only concerning the people that would get motivated, as the people that participated in the war, survived, and didn't lose their fighting spirit would have grown immensely themselves. Haki flourishes in battle more so than if you just practice by yourself. And what bigger battle is there than a war? Just after one battle of this caliber, that each fighter reached new levels that pushed them into the realm of the greats. Even the fighters who were already powerful grew by leaps and bounds. Katakuri, for example, managed to find more ways to use his awakened devil fruit powers, and one specific man was the most happy about that. That in fact is the third consequence, and actually the only reason why the rest of the world could follow this huge battle live and in color. No, you stupid bird! Get lower and record the full face of Katakuri! A shot where we can see his mouth is rare and we'll get so many more viewers! In a safe distance, far away from the battlefield of Hachinosu, in an airship, Big News Morgan stood in front of hundreds of monitors, commanding his birds that were normally used to deliver the newspapers to check all over the island to capture all of the battles. Using dial technology attached to his birds, he was capable of not only recording the war, but also sharing it through a live stream all over the world. Of course, all for a price, but no one in the world wanted to miss this event, so even if that meant that multiple people from a village had to come together to reach the berries needed to pay, they did just that. This is a content minefield! A man thought to be dead, and his army against the Emperor that rose in just 2 years to be one of the most feared men in the world. Gah! The big albatross man spread out his wings and glared at all of his employees on the airship. Stop looking at me and focus on writing the live ticker! For those poor people that couldn't buy the video stream, they still paid money to follow it through your words. Truly, if there was one person that was only winning in this war, then that was Big News Morgan. All of the fights that had happened so far on this island were captured by his organization, and he had made enough money to retire even his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandkids. 11 huge battles had happened so far, and even from the no-name grunts, battles were recorded to place bets on which weakling will come out of the war alive and suddenly turn into a huge uprising star. At the very start of it all, using a gigantic cannon from the Thriller flagship, the invading pirates shot Ors, the ancient giant who had the shadow of Hyrdine inside of him at the island. He was a welcoming presence, to say, to show the Blackbeard Pirates what was awaiting them, and he was met with the man that seeked battles out the most in this world, Jesus Burgess. In the battle, the wrestling champion first showed his abilities and started using his devil fruit to grow even stronger. In the end, he also ate chunks of the zombie body of Ors, revealing to the public eye that he was a man that ate any and all species he fought against. For the civilians, seeing that sight was grotesque, but they couldn't stop themselves from continuing to watch. They were hoping for a hero to appear, to make that cruel and perverse monster disappear, even if that hero was another pirate. At the same time, on another screen, the battle between Idio and Bluegilly versus Van Augur started. The people started focusing on that, but as all over the island other battles began, they had a hard time choosing on what to put their eyes on. Bluegilly and Sin of Envy Idio versus Titanic Captain Van Augur. The legendary retired Devil's Luck Pirates versus Fleet Admiral Sakazuki. The Sin of Lust Cavendish versus Titanic Captain Katarina Devon. Koribu and Smoothie of the Big Mom Pirates versus the two Titanic captains, Vasco Shot and San Juan Wolf. The Sin of Wrath and his younger brother Boo versus the Titanic captain Doc Q and his horse Stronger. The Sin of Greed Olympus and his right hand and adoptive daughter Columbus versus all of the high-ranking members of Impel Down. All over the island, the battles of no-name grunts and of the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet, led by Abdullah and Jeet of the Idio Pirates. The confrontations between the world's strongest swordsman Mihawk versus Admiral Fujitora, the new giant warrior pirates led by the Sin of Pride Hyrodine versus the Crown Prince of Elbaf, Loki, and his mysterious supporters that all look quite similar to him. Then another fight of the Titanic Captain Jesus Burgess versus a core member of the Philabbark Pirates, the fierce Iron Maiden Bronya. And also the battle between the stand-in captain of the Big Mom Pirates Katakuri versus the traitor of the Marines, the ex-admiral and now Titanic Captain Kuzan. So many battles were happening all over the island. Every second new information was revealed and the world enjoyed it all, feared it all, but just couldn't look away. Until the very end, they would continue to watch the spectacle unfold, to know who to fear in the future. This was the main reason why the world government let Morgans share the War of the Worlds, as it deepened their rule by making the civilians even more scared of pirates. Only when something they didn't want the world to see would they act and cut off the streams. This was yet another consequence of this war. But for now, the ordinary people were still glued to the screens, allowed to follow this event that would mark the end of an era, no matter what the conclusion would be. One crowd had been following a battle for a while now. It was a back and forth, and there was still no clear winner, even though these two combatants had started a confrontation almost immediately after the Philabbark Pirates had set foot on Pirate Island. Fate had brought them to the situation. In the past, they both had worked as what people would consider allies of justice, as sheriff and the captain of a battle convoy, but now they were both pirates. In the eyes of the public, they had many similarities, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. In fact, in this battle alone, they already had begun to hate each other like they did towards no other person in the world. While one laughed to entertain, the other laughed to be entertained. While one wants to spread joy and happiness, the other thrived in pain and suffering. These two high-ranking members of their respective pirate crews couldn't have been more different from each other. The blades clashed again and again, finesse and weapon mastery on both sides. This battle would have been the same as every other, as in just another high-class battle, if not for the case that one of the fighters noticed the birds flying around them and recording this entire spectacle. So with that information, he decided to turn it all into a show. And this is the end of today's episode of Shadow Piece. A bit of a recap of everything that happened so far, not in the high detail, but you heard all of the battles that were happening, and also the guy profiting of it all. Big News Morgan surely loves this war a lot. But now we are stepping into the next battle, and you heard the laugh, so you probably know who this next battle is going to be about. Maybe you also know who his opponent is going to be, even though that description was a bit more vague, I guess. So for now, that's all from me for today. Always left to be sad, stay happy, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay cultured. Pyro, out. Bye!